art is a universal language, and it transcends demographics, socioeconomics, race. It is a language that we all speak. And if that helps unite us, then more power to art.
You may recognize Mullen Huntley as the Potter County Elections Administrator, but she is also an artist who is bringing art and Amarillo neighborhood history together.
For years, when I drive to work, I would drive through the North Heights neighborhood, and I wondered about the buildings, I wondered about the stories, and I just kept seeing them fall down. I just became very curious about really what is their history and what is their story, and always thought as an artist that I was supposed to, at some point, capture all these stories.
Huntley worked with others in the community to create the North Heights Art Project and seek artists to participate in a show in January. The Barrio neighborhood will be featured in the same way in January 2020.
When we invite artists to come in, we do a sale. The artists may keep 50% of it, or they can donate the whole thing. But through this, we were able to give $5,000 to North Heights. Theirs was a story of segregation and Jim Crow laws and having a really beautiful life in spite of some of the limits that were placed on them. And it was very, very interesting, some of the stories that came out, because when some of the people from the neighborhood came and talked, they would just laugh about some of the things they went through that I look at and think, oh my gosh, we would have never been able to handle that. But they were able to. I did one of Bones Hooks for the North Heights Arts Project, and I had a photograph as a reference for he was walking down Polk Street. And then I used an old photograph of the Little Dogie Club, because one thing he started was the Little Dogie Club. It was for underprivileged kids in North Amarillo. And so, and these kids said this was absolutely the greatest thing that ever happened to them, because they weren't part of the Boy Scouts, they weren't part of other civic clubs. So he started this so they would learn respect and some of the skills that are needed to succeed in life. And so that was the piece that I contributed. We didn't expect that kind of a response, but they came to the North Heights Arts Project and they looked at the pieces and they read the history simultaneously. And what we heard from people who experienced the show was the words, "We never knew, we didn't understand." And somehow, by telling the story through art, they suddenly understood the path that another neighborhood had taken and how they got to where we are today. The reaction from people who knew their history was they saw it as a celebration of their neighborhood. They saw that finally their story was being told, that they were not being marginalized, instead they were being exalted and celebrated for what they had accomplished. With the Barrio Arts Project, we have named kind of the overarching thing, Let's Art Amarillo. Because we don't want it to be, here's one art project and then here's another art project. We want to say, let's celebrate all of Amarillo, and right now we're celebrating the Barrio. This time around, we're kind of promoting it differently. We have a Facebook page called Let's Art Amarillo, the Barrio Project. And so we are pushing out a story about every 2 weeks. And our hope is that when an artist sees a story that really hits them, that they will get out whatever their craft is and create something on it. And I mean, we had poetry in the last one. If somebody wants to do a video with the history of a place, that'd be great. We had painters, we have three-dimensional, and one thing we are doing is we are increasing prize money, because there is prize money associated with this. We also have work for students, and so students have their own category where they can win some scholarships, but they're also eligible for the adult categories. One thing we're going to be doing with the Barrio Arts Project is we're hoping to print a booklet that will be at the libraries, so that we don't just throw the art up and then it all disappears. That was kind of a lesson we learned with North Heights. Is one of the criticisms we had was, here were the stories, but if you didn't go to it, you didn't get it. Absolutely, it builds community, but it helps us understand where a neighborhood came from or a generation came from. And so when we can understand each other, then when you're thinking, why are we different? Why did we think different? Or, why? If you understand where someone came from, then you can understand them better. is when we just tell the history. People know it in their heads, but when we show it through art, for some reason it was reaching hearts.